Well, thank you for the question. And I think we need to really take these assertions by the Conservative leader with a very healthy grain of salt. The reality is, in recent weeks and months, we have had a steady stream of good economic news for Canadians. We have had inflation within the Bank of Canada's target range for 7 months in a row, down to 2.5% in July. We have had interest rates coming down twice, and market analysts forecasting they are going to continue to come down. We have had wages outpace inflation for 18 months in a row. And the recession that so many economists, so many analysts were predicting at the height of COVID hasn't materialized. It looks like Canada is going to achieve a soft landing with the second fastest growth in the G7 this year and forecast to have the fastest growth in the G7 next year. Now, all of that for everyone here, that is really good news. That is good news for you in your life. It is good news for households and families across the country. But it turns out it is bad news for the Conservatives. And I think it's pretty pathetic that the good news, the good economic news that we are seeing for Canada and Canadians, the Conservatives feel is bad news for them. They can see that that good news is going to keep on coming, and I think they're a little bit worried about that.
Call an election.
And maybe they should be.
Call an election. You'll find out. Oh, my goodness.
Hello, good afternoon. David Lowett, CBC National News here. My questions are for Minister Freeland. My first question is also pertaining to the supply and confidence agreement. Do you think that the NDP will continue to support the deal until next year? They previously said that they could pull out of it at any time.
I know that our government is delivering good and important investments for Canada and Canadians.
That wasn't
investments
the question.
Like dental care,
That
which
wasn't
is
the
being
question.
rolled out now, is transforming the lives of so many people. And frankly, it's a program which is long overdue. You know, I think as Canadians, we are rightly proud of our social safety net. We're rightly proud of Medicare. We're rightly proud that in Canada, when you get sick, the first thing the hospital asks isn't, can you show us your credit card? That's a really good thing about our country. But the reality is, up until now, you have been able to tell the size of someone's paycheck or how much their parents earn by their smile. We have had too many Canadian seniors who don't get their teeth taken care of because they just can't afford it. Delivering dental care is so important for so many Canadians, and that's just one of the things that we have been able to do in this government. And I know that progressive voters, and actually voters from all walks of life and of all convictions, recognize how positive that is and how important it is to continue to deliver that.
You just went way off.
Sir, my second question is...
The question was about NDP pulling out.
Population growth to housing, healthcare, and jobs, suggesting there should be a big cut to immigration. What do you say to that?
I'm going to say a couple things. First of all,
don't.
I do think it is really important for us as Canadians to recognize what a fundamental strength it is for us as a country that we welcome new Canadians. And we are good at welcoming new Canadians, and that is such a strength for us. It's a social strength, it's an economic strength. It's also the case, as our government has recognized, that there have been ways in which the system has been abused. There have been ways in which some of the modifications put in place to deal with the extraordinary circumstances around COVID are not appropriate today. And that's why our government has introduced a cap on the number of temporary residents That's why our government has introduced a cap on international students. And that's why on Monday, the Prime Minister announced changes, restrictions to the temporary foreign worker program. Because frankly, if you're in a city where unemployment is more than 6%, we want you to go out and hire Canadians. But I just want to conclude by reminding people of the fundamental hypocrisy at the heart of what we have been hearing from the Conservative leader today. Basically, his problem is that there is good economic news for Canadians right now. Inflation down to target range for 7 months in a row, interest rates coming down, the economy proving to be resilient, wages outpacing inflation. And economists are forecasting that that is going to continue and that next year Canada will have the strongest economic growth in the G7. Now, that is good news for every single Canadian. And every single person who has the privilege of being elected to Parliament and to represent Canadians should be celebrating that good news and should say, thank goodness we see light at the end of the tunnel after all of the challenges posed by COVID. But the Conservatives, I think, are showing how fundamentally self-centered they are. All they care about is themselves and their party, and they are seeing this good news for Canadians. They're seeing it as bad news for themselves. I think that tells you everything you need to know.
You are absolutely loony. Absolutely off the charts. Just
Hi,
way
I'm
down the
Pauline
loony
Bloomberg
bin.
News. Another question for Minister Freeland on immigration. We've seen the government has made reductions to the targets for temporary foreign residents as well as for international students. We're wondering, is there going to be any changes to reduction in targets for permanent residents, particularly with concerns of housing costs?
I don't have any immigration announcements to make today.